Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there, and welcome to the Wednesday edition. That would be of May 30. 30 days, has September, April, June. So there's one more.
Yeah. Breaking news here at the Lynn Cullen Show. There are 31 days in May.
Thank you very much. And, smart Alec here. Chris Potter, editor of Pittsburgh City Paper. Well, you look at this day. Look at this day.
Yeah.
Isn't it
and here
pretty?
we are, cooped up inside.
Well, I'm not for long.
We should do this broadcast outside, maybe.
Really? I always felt that way, like when I had to go to school and it was a beautiful day. Can't we all just get up and go outside?
Right, but that's a terrible thing to do because nobody pays attention to you. I taught a class at the college level, and we went outside maybe twice in my 2 years of teaching, and both times I was just like, wait, come back.
You mean they're just, well, they were physically, because nature's so lovely.
Yeah.
Well, that's worth knowing.
I guess.
That's a kind of knowledge.
Yeah. Well, they didn't need to come to my class.
When did you teach?
Here's an example of how far the academy has fallen. I was the journalism department at Allegheny College. I was the journalism department for 2 years.
As an adjunct?
As an adjunct. Yep.
Were you paid as abysmally as the adjuncts over at Pitt?
Yeah, I was paid. It's all pretty much in the same ballpark there.
$2,500 per class per semester.
That's about right. Yeah, and then you got to remember this is in Meadville, Pennsylvania. So for me, there was also the cost of gas driving up there. I would stay the night, and they would put me in a room inside a dorm, which was so awful. And there was always some kid like talking to his girlfriend because it was like a freshman dorm, so you had all these kids who they were still dating their girlfriends who were at another campus, and it's not going to work out. And he'd be up at like 2 a.m. like in the like with his back up against my door, and I could just hear him just like, "Okay, baby, I'll call you tomorrow. Okay, I love you too. I'll call you tomorrow." Like that, like 5 times. And finally, when I just opened the door, and I was just like, "You'll call her tomorrow." And like meanwhile, you just want to go, dude, it's not going to work out. I'm telling you now.
Sometimes it works, but I guess it usually doesn't.
It doesn't work out.
Well, I had a friend who went to a different school than from high school lovers, and then they did end up. Yeah. They ended up together. Yeah, well. She pined away.
Let me put it this way: it wasn't working for me.
Oh. I'm always astounded by people who marry their high school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, boyfriend or girlfriend, and they maybe that was their first boyfriend or girlfriend, so they've never sort of sampled what's out there. You know what I mean? I mean, what a limited kind of a reality. I mean, sometimes I suppose it's the right. You get lucky, and that is the right person. But what are the odds of that?
Anyway, so I did teach.
Okay.
That was the long and short of it. Journalism.
Okay. Well, I bet you were very good at it.
Yeah. I don't know. At least one of my students is still working in journalism here in Pittsburgh today.
Really?
Yes, at your former place of employ, WTAE.
Well, who would that be?
John Mayer.
John who?
The sports guy, John Mayer.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I don't watch local TV anymore,
there
so
you go.
I can't. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know who anybody is. You're going to eat grapes during the show?
I just thought I'd hold a grape, yeah.
He has to hold. You have to hold something.
No, you're going to talk and read a headline. I'm going to pop a grape in my mouth. I'm hungry. I didn't really have breakfast this morning.
Did you read that extremely long, which I'm still plowing through because I fell asleep in the middle of it, article that the New York Times did on Sunday, I believe, on Obama's direct involvement in the kill list.
I started to read it, and then my kids started screaming. No, my kids started screaming, and I got distracted, and I started wishing for a drone strike. I started to see it. Apparently, he reviews all of these things personally.
Well, there's this group of, like they said, about 100 people who meet via extraordinarily secure teleconference, in which they, the pictures come up. Here's a guy, bio,
Yeah, they're like baseball cards.
That's right, like little baseball cards. Okay, here he is. We want to know whether
bombs
or not
left,
you think,
that's right.
we should put him as a target on the hit list. And those 100 people argue and this and that, and people, are pulled off the list or moved down the list, and then somehow it's culled to maybe 3, 4, 5, whatever. It's sent over to the president,
right?
Who looks at the cards, has a sense of these people, and he insists on personally signing off on every potential victim of one of our drone attacks, so that his name is on that death warrant, essentially. And they say that he does so because of his sort of religious sense of needing to take responsibility for it.
I have to say, which I kind of respect on the one hand. At least it's not some sort of like George W. Bush era plausible deniability where everything gets foisted off on the attorney general who's like beep 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 in a hospital somewhere or whatever. On the other hand, I don't really. On some level, we're supposed to be a nation of laws, not a nation of men. And there's an ad hoc quality to this thing. We're blowing up American citizens in Yemen, for example.
He had no problem, he said, with that.
Well, yeah, that's great for him.
Now wait, but let me take the other side on this. This ain't a normal war. We are not at war with some country, with some army. We are at war with these little cells of terrorists, and that is the enemy.
Yeah.
And a state of war exists between us and those guys.
Right.
They certainly would agree that a state of war exists. So what's wrong with taking them out? And if an American goes over to that side, they're the enemy.
Well, obviously there are a few things going on. One is, once you say, I agree with that. It's obviously this is a slipperier, we're in a different environment than just, interstate war or whatever, where you've got two competing nations or whatever. But on the other hand, at some point, you really do have to ask yourself, at what point do you stop defining that stuff down? So 20 years from now, if we decide there's a war on drugs or whatever, do we start bombing the hell out of, domestic?
No,
we don't now.
Be for that, but
we don't.
But that's
we're
an easy argument. That's the old slippery slope.
It is, but it's a legitimate argument when you look at the history of these things.
Well, I was reading your column today, and you were talking about these easy arguments that are employed.
Yeah, sure.
And you were talking about the fungibility argument when it comes to
abortion. Yeah.
But I've always thought that way about my tax dollars. Maybe I should not agree to pay taxes to the government because a lot of my hard-earned money is going to things I would never fund.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So again,
that's why it's hard to understand.
You say sure, I can argue that. But it's the same as like the slippery slope and fungibility are two easy arguments.
But consider the flip side of that or whatever, which is sooner or later this drone technology will be in the hands of other actors, either state or non-state actors or whatever.
It'll be in the hands of the terrorists.
Yeah, or it'll be in the hands of China or the North Koreans or whoever it is.
Do we necessarily personal drone?
Right. So do you necessarily want to feel like any country in the world can sort of cite a potential threat to themselves and use a drone strike in another country that they're also not at war with? A lot of these are military. This is a military strike in a country we are not at war with.
That's correct.
Against a person who is an American citizen,
who renounced essentially as American. Says, he ain't anymore.
Well, okay.
He's gone over.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. But there ought to be such a thing as rule of law. And if we don't have, and I think, I'm not about to like chain myself to the fence outside the White House or anything, because I understand the difficulties here, but I'm simply not comfortable with the setup as it currently is, and I don't have any great answers for it. And I'm glad that like I said at the start, I'm glad that the president takes responsibility for this, in a kind of personal way. It does not, however, make me feel like really comfortable with the program as it exists. Also, I should say, I always felt like this process where 100 people are like thumbs up, thumbs down, I always felt like a process like that was taking place in my high school. And it was just like, there is a quality to it. It's just like, well, are we going to put him on the top? Is he on the top of the heap? Is he on the bottom?
Such is life.
Yeah, I know. It's
right?
true. It's true.
And death.
Right.
As it turns out.
Is Mariah Carey on the list? We're moving her up. We're moving her down. Donald Trump,
Speaking of high school, I came upon this bizarre story, let me find it, about a school district in Texas.
Naturally.
Yeah, that is true. Naturally. That is going to run a program in which they'll have chips installed. I thought in their students, but as it turns out, on their students. Where is it? Where is it?
What do you mean, like, on their students? Like they...
And, of course, now I can't find it. Well, isn't that interesting? It just disappeared.
Oh. It's been wiped out.
Here it is.
Texas students to be monitored with microchips.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. Here we go.
Here's a school district in San Antonio. It's going to have chips, scanner chips, put in the ID cards, which apparently they already have to have. Thus, the school will know at any time they want where every student is.
Mm-hmm. So much for smoking in the boys' room. Is that what they're going to use it for? Like,
no. And here's what they said. The school district spokesperson said this: "We want to harness the power of technology to make schools safer, know where our students are all the time, and increase revenue."
How are they going to increase revenue?
Yeah. Because a school gets reimbursed for higher attendance, and Medicaid reimburses them for busing special education students, and I guess this way they can prove it. So it's tied to attendance rates. The state funds are tied to attendance rates. So they figure this will give them money. If you were a parent, would you favor a program where your kid was essentially microchip? Well, yeah, but your kid isn't going to school.
Right. Oh, I see.
If you were a kid with a parent with a child in school.
No, I'm pretty weirded out by that.
Because?
I don't know. I guess it's just a
privacy
sort of
thing.
A privacy. Yeah, sort of an American allergy to the idea of a government monitoring of your whereabouts. I'm kind of against it.
Okay.
I'm wary of my own cell phone. I am, seriously,
Yeah. Well, does it have it? It doesn't have a GPS.
It has it doesn't. I mean, it's not
Mine
like it's like a very primitive flip phone, but it does have like a little thing that says something like 911 locator, which I don't really know if that means like I could be being tracked right now or not. It's like, it's just like you've seen it. It's an old flip phone. It's
yeah.
I mean, high school kids 15 years ago were carrying them, but nobody knew where their high school kids were, so I guess I'm okay. I'm free to smoke in bathrooms whenever I want without government interference, which is what this country's all about.
See, now, here's a headline from today's New York Times. 2 Qaeda members killed, U.S. says. And I looked and thought, is this... They're not clear about this being a drone attack, but then it does say NATO said the 2 were killed in a precision airstrike. Would that be? I don't know if that's a drone attack.
Yeah, I mean, any...
Because they specifically...
smart guided bombs and stuff.
They know who they got, and they were going after these 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. Boop. You're finished.
Boop. That's the sound it makes. That's... Thanks to sophisticated video game technology.
Wow. Okay.
Doodly-doo-doo-doo.
Here's another thing I heard that just freaked me out. You heard about Cory Booker, the mayor of Newark's unfortunate appearance as an Obama surrogate on Meet the Press, in which he slammed Obama and his campaign.
Yes.
Said, what is the word he used? Nauseating.
Yes, nauseating.
And compared his attacks on Mitt Romney's fine record at Bain Capital with what? With being... He suggested it was...
It wasn't the Nazi reference. That was on the Republican side. There was some talk about that. I can't remember what.
But it was this kind of...
I remember the nauseating part. I can't remember.
So, fallout from that. First of all, the Republicans, of course, picked it up right away and ran with it. I mean, it was a gift to them. And Booker's supposed to be so brilliant, Oxford, Harvard, all of that. What the hell? And then do you see what happened? He fired his communications director, who was charged with preparing him for Meet the Press. Well, she didn't tell him to say that.
Yeah. And didn't she say, I mean, I haven't followed this as closely maybe as you have. Didn't she say that it had nothing to do with that? I don't know if anybody believes that.
She said, it had nothing to do. It's time for me to move on,
I heard
blah, blah, blah. But
the conspiracy theory I heard about this, by the way, is that this is about Booker setting himself up for a future run for higher office, maybe as governor or senate, and wanting Wall Street.
The money in his corner.
Which, unfortunately, sounds plausible to me. So, yeah. And we've been down this road before. We've talked about how Obama, certainly when he ran in 2008, had a hell of a lot of support from Wall Street, and I'd argue that that may have helped soften what could otherwise have been a much harsher regulatory response to the financial meltdown. Of course, they're not backing him in this go around. They're all in Romney's corner. But still, I mean, it's unfortunate the extent to which Wall Street has its tentacles in both of these parties.
Well, I asked if you'd read the article about the Walker recall and what's happened to my once proud progressive state. I mean, really, he has upended this extraordinary tradition.
But this is what I want to ask you, because every poll I've seen,
he's ahead.
He's still ahead by like 5 points.
That's right.
It doesn't. And so if Wisconsin is that great, and they have a chance, because this is next week, right? It's next Tuesday is this recall election. So the people of Wisconsin have a chance to go, and we rarely get this in politics. You rarely get a chance to throw a lever and just make something kind of go away, right? You can make Scott Walker go away. You have a chance to do it over, which I'm sure there are a lot of voters in Pennsylvania right now who wish they got a chance to redo theirs.
The state, like the country, is like 50-50 split. Now, Obama's still way ahead.
See, that's what I don't
get.
Walker's
making a comeback, and you know why?
I don't know why.
Well, I happened to spend a few days there last week. You cannot turn on a television or a radio
without seeing
or drive down a street, or you are assaulted with attacks on his opponent.
Yeah.
And with, these wondrous things. And as much as there are an incredible number of politically astute and active, politically active people in that state, there's still a bunch of folks who aren't quite paying attention and can be easily swayed. And did you look at the money differential? I just saw an update today. When the New York Times piece ran on Sunday, he had $25 million.
Yeah.
Now, I got to tell you, that's unheard of for a state.
You could buy the state for $25 million.
$25 million. While Barrett, the mayor of Milwaukee that's running against him,
$1 million, I think,
had less than $1 million.
Yeah.
Now, with you can say money...
No, sure, it makes a difference.
25 to 1...
And that's just in their campaigns, right? That's not like money outside spending.
No, that's their campaigns, what they have raised. And there was an addendum in today's paper saying he had brought in an additional $5 million, I believe, just in the last few weeks. So he has $30 million. Barrett has gotten another $1 million, but the ratio is still the same. Mm-hmm. And I swear that's going to be the difference. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, you two. I'm having a hard time hearing you, so let me know if I need to speak up.
Okay.
You're fine.
Hey, it's PJ from Greensburg. How you doing?
Fine.
do you guys ever watch the Ricky Gervais show on HBO?
The Ricky Gervais show?
It's an animated, I think it's a half hour. It's him and Carl from Idiot Abroad and the other tall, skinny guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were talking about a similar topic, and they were discussing how the British, in the past have felt it chivalrous to use, in particular they talked about the crossbow versus bow and arrow.
Oh.
And how the British wouldn't pick up the crossbow because they thought it was
ungentlemanly.
Ungentlemanly, yes, that's a good way to phrase it. And because of it, they were killed in large numbers and had quite a problem. But I think the difference between kind of tying our hands in that sense and the problem I have with it is the fact that there's a difference between technology and rule of law.
Right.
So it's fine. Use all the technology you want, as advanced as you want. If this is, my opinion, use all of those to your advantage, but don't have a law that wavers.
Right.
That can be, shifted, especially, and this ties in so well with me, in my mind, to the whole corporate mentality of government now, and what I see as the largest problem is, with the corporations taking over our government, is the fact that if those laws are not set in stone, then when they already have so much power, and if those laws can waver so much,
right,
the common people are going to have we almost have no recourse now, but it's going to be to the point where there is none at all.
Yeah.
Well, who decides if the law has been, is it breached or broached? Breached. Who decides? And if you have a court system, a Supreme Court, in fact, that's now packed with these corporatists as well, there is no. Who makes that decision? You can make a law concrete. All law turns out to be fungible because, or we wouldn't need a court system a Supreme Court to decide what the hell it meant.
Well, and to speak to the point, to put a more finite point on what you're saying, if the people that are checking the people making the laws have the same self-interest or the same bias,
right,
then we're nowhere.
Well, but that's pretty much where we almost are.
We are almost there. I think we're way down that slippery slope.
No, I do too.
There's only a small fragment, and we need to protect vehemently with that little bit that's left, and that's why we're already willing to kill American citizens.
Right.
We just have to call them a terrorist.
Right.
And at what point do you? I'm sorry if I'm speaking over you because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
At what point do I am not I consider myself an active environmentalist, but I'm not an active environmentalist. But let's say I chose to protest something. At what point do they say, you're a terrorist?
Right.
And therefore, hey, even though you're an American citizen, you are a terrorist, and we can take you out.
Lynn is about to drop a smart bomb on you, pal. You got precision munitions pointed right at your argument right now. I could see she's got the gleam in her eye.
Well, it's the same thing you were. It's the slippery slope argument again. I understand what you're saying totally. I also want to take out these jerks who are bent on blowing some airplane out of the sky with a bunch of innocent human beings on it. I want to take them out.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. There's no problem in defending yourself, but it's defending yourself with a set of rules that are not fungible, as you said.
Yeah.
Boy, that word's getting a workout today.
That you can't change the rules midstream. That you can't.
Oh yeah.
Well, obviously you can because it's done often. But that's what I'm saying. You should not be able to.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I appreciate your point of view, PJ. I do.
It's a great call. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
We'll see you.
Bye. Yeah.
I mean, and I want to just to pick up just a splinter of that, which is the sort of corporate control, and to bring it back to the Scott Walker thing. I mean, I think that's why I'm really, really, really hoping that Wisconsin can pull this out. And I won't make fun of you. I won't make fun of you on Wednesday if it doesn't happen. I promise it's going to be worse than the Super Bowl. But like precisely for the reason you say, if the voters of Wisconsin can't face down a 25-1 funding advantage,
25-1,
and all that, if the home of Fightin' Bob isn't able to see through the exercise of corporate privilege and make a decision accordingly, then the rest of us are in a lot of trouble, because what we're seeing up there is sort of a dry run for how this money's going to get flung around in November.
And what we're seeing there is what this conservative Supreme Court, dominated by these Republicans, has given us and has told us is democracy in action. Is exactly, I guess, what our founding fathers had in mind when they drafted the First Amendment.
No doubt. They were highly concerned with the rights of multinational corporations and their ability to affect public policy.
It's mind-boggling. I'll tell you, talking to people in Green Bay, including my mother, who's beside herself, no one thinks they're going to pull it off.
Really?
There's just this dispirited aspect to it, and a lot of second guessing. Oh, why did we do it? We could have blah, blah, blah. I don't know, because they are up against this unbelievably huge force.
And the funny thing is, so I'm on, and I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but I'm on a bunch of mailing lists for Tea Party organizations. And the message from them is, we have a chance to beat big labor. From the moment this thing started, it was, help us save our poor hero, Scott Walker, from these thugs in organized labor. I bet you if you went and you polled these Tea Party folks, they would think their guy is outfunded 10-1 or whatever. Obviously not the ones who are actually living in Wisconsin, but this has become a national cause, obviously. And I'm sure the people who don't live there and aren't in the media market and don't drive down the street and see 10 billboards on the one side for every one on the other, they're convinced that their guy is beset by this well-oiled machine, which anybody who's actually a Democrat or knows Democrats knows that we're really not that capable of putting together. But they're totally convinced. And if this election goes Walker's way, they're going to convince themselves that they triumphed over incredible odds.
Absolutely true. Well, they always listen. They have a narrative and they always have a narrative which often has no basis in fact at all. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. The thing that's I will be mourning. I will be mourning more than the loss of that election if it happens. I will be mourning the loss of the great Wisconsin tradition of bipartisan government. It was. I covered that state legislature as a young reporter. When you look at the bill that what Walker did, the first thing which created this stir, was try to get out of the law something that had been put into it under a Republican governor. Robert Knowles. With bipartisan. The bill that now the conservative Republicans would have you think is like written by Leon Trotsky, was written by Republicans and who saw an absolute right for state workers to be able to bargain collectively. That bill did not have one dissenting vote. And we're not talking about 1810 or something. Yeah, we're talking about 1967.
Yeah. And let's recall too. Let's bear in mind too. It's not just history that's at stake here. there are potential implications here in Pennsylvania as well. I mean, I don't know how much you've talked about this on the show, but there's a lot of talk in Republican circles here in Pennsylvania about Tom Corbett and why he doesn't seem to be connecting. And there are a lot of Democrats who are sort of chortling in glee over his difficulty. But if you listen to what some of these Republican operatives are saying, they're saying, why isn't our guy as popular as Chris Christie or Scott Walker? And if Scott Walker is able to pull this off, don't think for a second that won't give some ammunition to people in the Pennsylvania GOP who want Tom Corbett to be a bigger
asshole
than he already is. Because, as people think Tom Corbett's bad, it could be a lot worse. He's actually been conspicuous in not picking fights with organized labor. A lot of this education stuff is sort of a backdoor thing, but he's never done the kind of thing that Walker pulled off, as you said, the kind of legislation, the legislative attack on the rights of public employees to organize. So there are implications for what happens here in Pennsylvania for sure. Incidentally, people, I guess you could still probably contribute in a last-minute kind of way, we should point out, to the cause. I think Daily Kos at dailykos.com is still doing their
It'd be easy to find
thing.
on the internet. And my understanding is the Democratic National Committee has not given
Very weird.
money.
You've got Debbie Wasserman Schultz sort of sending this mixed message.
They're giving people and
Right.
they're giving them resources, but they're not giving them money.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Republican Governors Association, which is
Right.
nowhere near what the DNC is, has given millions and millions and millions to Scott Walker.
Right. So don't think this is an isolated incident. This is not. It may start in Wisconsin, but it'll have impact. It'll have impacts everywhere across the country, including here potentially.
I especially like the illustration with this article. It was a cheese head on fire.
Yeah. With like little melty things
Melt-
coming down on it. Yeah.
I
This is,
would-
for those who don't know, this is New York Times Magazine had a piece.
It's also, it is in today's Daily News Nuggets, available to you, because if you go to the Times, you're going to hit a wall if you don't subscribe. So you can download it from Daily News Nuggets, Dayle News Nuggets. And we
Great.
thank.
So we I mean, I'm a print journalism guy, so it's sad for me to think that
there's always a way around
there's
it.
always, I mean, I'm a content provider. Somehow there needs to be a way of compensating them for what
Well,
they
you
do.
got to become more of a capitalist then, obviously.
obviously,
You can't
that's
have
my
it both
problem.
ways.
Yeah.
If you're going to espouse these commie, principles and ideas, then you're going to, you're going to.
It's an irony at the heart of my being. Thanks for pointing it out.
An impoverished person like you are. Living in Mount Lebanon, I might add. Okay. Raised in Upper St. Clair, I might
Thank
add.
you. Yeah.
Okay. We got to take a break. Be back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pittsburgh City Paper with the Three Rivers Arts Festival pullout is available now. Pick up one today for The Cult, Layla Hathaway, Global Navigators, and Joe Walsh. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Gustavo and Vella wants to thank all of southwestern Pennsylvania, the USA, and the world for helping to liberate his native country of Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea has suffered 43 years of dictatorship, 43 years of human rights abuses, 43 years of corruption, and 43 years of kleptocracy. Even with $5 billion in oil revenue in 2011, the 700,000 citizens of Equatorial Guinea earn less than $2 per day. A proud Mount Lebanon resident, please help Gustavo and Vella usher in the 21st century by allowing freedom, democracy, and socioeconomic prosperity by the rule of law for the next 43 years and beyond. Email him at presidentandvella@yahoo.com to help free Equatorial Guinea.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey there. Welcome back.
We were having a nice conversation until this show broke in.
Well, I was talking about this amazing woman, and she is an amazing woman.
Do you want to say her name, actually?
Do I?
Yeah, sure.
Vanessa German,
Yes. Local artist.
local artist,
Subject
local,
of a city paper cover story, not in the past
500 years ago. And I was just suggesting you need to update that because she's just, it's amazing. She's a amazing artist. She's an amazing activist. She's an amazing force. and she's just brilliant.
Yeah.
She recently bought a house in Homewood, and she now does her art on the front porch, so that kids in the neighborhood, curious, come up and say, "What are you doing?" And she tells them what she's doing, and then all of a sudden they want to do it.
Right.
And it grows and grows and grows. And then she went and found a picnic table, and they sit there, and she got big blocks of wood and paint and brushes, and they're now all painting. And she wants people, she asked me, stop by. I really want them to meet people that they wouldn't otherwise meet. She's trying to show them possibilities, broaden their horizons. So I did go out there. I was picking her up because we were heading off somewhere. And I was so moved by what I saw. And it's just, 1 minute the kids are painting, then they're jumping on their bikes and racing all over the street and running down to their running across the street. But it's Miss Vanessa this, Miss Vanessa. And when she introduced me to them, she was very firm. And what do you do when you meet some, they were shook my hand, looked me in the eye. Hello, Miss Cullen. So she's parenting these kids. And she saw, when the political signs were all up before the primary, she got an idea of making signs that look like political signs and sticking them up on as many yards as would have them in Homewood. And they say things like, what is it? Stop shooting. We love you. And no guns. Keep summer fun. And as I was driving out of Homewood with her, we see a man with a sign under his arm, and he's
going to put it out.
And he's going down the street, and she says, "Stop the car! Roll down your window!" And she screams out at him through my open window, "What are you doing with that sign?" And he looked terrified. She's an imposing woman.
Yes, yeah.
What are you doing with that sign? And he said, she said, "Are you going to put that up in your yard?" He said, "Yes." And she said, "Great." And then we drove on. Oh, my Lord. You see with somebody like her how, we all feel so powerless.
Right.
Look what, one person.
Right.
One person trying to make a difference, and I think making a difference. Indeed. So I think I don't know.
What was that? I'm sorry, I didn't really understand what that gesture was.
I think you should have her on the cover.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
Thank you. I don't remember your cover story. And she wasn't doing that.
No, she wasn't.
And
I think she just bought the house at that time. Actually.
Oh, really?
Because I recall the story mentioning something about that. Actually, Yeah.
She bought it for a.
Yeah. If you're looking for real estate deals, Homewood's a place to get them.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's an amazing 3 stories, and I looked up at the top because it looked like it had those gabled. I said, "Oh wow, that looks wonderful."
Yeah.
He says, "Oh yeah, it's my favorite place." But I mean, it was not in great shape.
Oh yeah, no, it's a lot of those places are like that.
Yeah, but so I'm going to be hanging out on her porch too. She's, as much as she wants people coming by. What'd you say?
I don't know. There's nothing there.
Oh, something about you. Yeah. I see. Did you see that scientific study that says that the pleasure parts of the human brain light up as much as they do during sex and enjoying great food as when you are the subject of the conversation?
I'm probably atypical then.
No.
Because the only parts of my brain that line up are the dread centers.
Well, let's see what we got here from Lynette.
Uh-oh.
It won't come.
See, there you go.
Lynn, was Chris Potter raised by
rich hippies? No. Well, actually, I guess I should confess, my parents did both graduate from the University of California at Berkeley in 1966.
Well.
However, this is sort of a tragic comic thing. they had absolutely no involvement whatsoever in any of that stuff. From my father,
well, they sort of just missed it.
Exactly.
Now, wait a minute, they missed it.
Exactly. So they were there. Well, no, some of that stuff was going on. The Mario Savio stuff was taking place. I have a joke that my father. You can probably see my father in photographs of these demonstrations. He's the guy with the briefcase. And the slide rule in a belt sheath, which I still have, by the way.
My brother had one of those.
Like looking nervous that he was going to be late for his chemical engineering class, because he went there for chemical engineering, and my mother was majored in English. And to that time, they were also married, I believe, at the age of 20. They were 20 or 21.
So they were married in college.
So they were married. So that tends to, I think, probably sort of take you out of the loop right off the bat. Yeah. So they were in it, but not of it. I mean, they were, around it, but it wasn't.
Their politics were.
I would say they're left of center, but I don't think neither of them was involved in any meaningful way in 60s culture.
They weren't rich either.
No, you're comfortably middle class. That's as good.
So you had the crappiest house in Upper St. Clair?
No, there were. We lived in. If there are any Upper St. Clair residents out there, they'll know exactly what I mean. We lived in the valley. What was also called the Fertile Valley, because supposedly that's where all the Catholics lived. It was like the oldest. Which that tells you everything you need to know about Upper St. Clair. Actually, it was sort of the oldest part of Upper St. Clair.
Okay, and it's not necessarily the.
No. In fact, anywhere else in the world, people would kill to live in this community. But by the skewed economics of Upper St. Clair, it was regarded as being
wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, exactly, which is so completely ridiculous. The wrong side of Fort Couch Road.
So how funny are the pictures of Obama sticking the Medal of Freedom around Bob Dylan's neck? Have you seen them?
No, I haven't seen the photos. No.
Well, here's a side shot for you. I guess it's funny.
What's great is like Dylan in this photo looks like an old guy I was waiting for a bus with last week. He just sort of staring straight off into the head.
There's some shots from the front. I know Wall Street Journal had one from the front, and he just looks like some guy you would give wide berth to if you were walking down the sidewalk.
Thanks for the middle. Yeah.
And he's wearing these totally dark sunglasses, which I find when I heard he was going to get the medal, I couldn't even imagine him showing up to get it.
Yeah, really. Come on, Bob.
Couldn't imagine him. And then so he must have been uncomfortable, probably wasn't happy, but he shows up, and I think the sunglasses were a way to protect himself. He just didn't want to.
You can't snub the president. Of the States. Don't follow leaders.
Don't follow leaders. What?
Watch the parking meters.
Yeah. I was going to say, I said plug the parking meter.
That sounds like a woman. That sounds like a woman who's had a little trouble with the law.
Oh man. Yeah. No, they've got. Yeah. Okay, so there was a one sentence in a front page story in the Wall Street Journal today that for me makes me crazy and it's a story about how there's a bunch of engineers and scientists who've been working for like a decade to figure out how to build a robot that can debone a chicken.
Man.
Well, no, it's yeah. And apparently it's hard because every chicken, they say, is different.
It's true.
Because Mr. Rogers would tell you every chicken is
they're
special.
All special.
And all their bones aren't necessarily in the same, length or height. They're all different. And so here's the line. A robot capable of doing the job could save millions of dollars in labor costs, poultry industry experts say.
Right.
Okay. This is in America. That is something that we would applaud, right? In America, you applaud that. Yes, we're saving labor costs. What does that mean? It means the people who have that job are unemployed.
But no one cares because a high percentage of them are going to be immigrants anyway. So who cares? I mean...
But the poultry company, which is already rich, can save millions more by putting these people out on the street.
Right.
So you would want this institute, the Georgia Institute of Technology, working with the poultry industry and the military for now 8 years. The military.
Why is the military?
There. It says right here, and the military to find, not just the chicken deboner, but finding robots that will do dull and dirty tasks. So they probably think we're freeing humanity from these dull, dirty tasks.
I will say this.
What are people supposed to do?
I will say this about that, though. When I first graduated from college, there were economic times not unlike these. And one of my jobs was paying invoices for a local specialty steel manufacturer. And I remember thinking, because you were doing these invoices, and I remember thinking, and you would enter the stuff in the computers. I remember thinking, the robots were supposed to do the drudgery, and we were supposed to focus on the high-end tasks. But basically, you could never get a robot to process all of these invoices because they're all different sizes. They have things on different parts of the
They'll figure
form.
them out eventually.
But at the time, it was like, but they had the computers that were able to break out the spreadsheets and tell you all. I mean, all the higher level analysis you could do in a computer. It was this BS job of paying. We're left to the humans. So in a way, at least finally, I mean, I totally understand your point, but at least finally, robots are doing jobs that humans
we won't
suffered
have
carpal tunnel
there
from
won't
and,
be
and
any
carve
human
themselves
jobs
up with.
left.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay, we got somebody writing, Chris, I live at the corner of Howard and Phillips. We call the area.
Lower St. Clair. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I know where Phillips is. I can't think of where Howard is, actually. But it's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Valley? Is that in the valley you were talking about?
Phillips, I think, is. Now that I'm blanking on it, though. It's been a long time since I've been there. Yeah.
And he avoids it now.
I'm not going back for the
Those
high
were
school
not
reunions.
happy days for Chris.
Yeah, they were not happy days.
Not in the in crowd at Upper St. Clair High School.
Yeah. I was one of those people that the committee of 100 were deciding whether to hit with I don't know, cafeteria drone strikes, probably flinging tomato slices at the back of my head.
Okay, so there's a lot being made of the fact that Romney finally is, in fact, he's got the numbers, he's going to be the nominee, and he spends that day with Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's nice.
Well, but... Okay, so here's a Mark McKinnon, who's a respected, which is hard to do, Republican political strategist. Quote, I've always thought Romney would gain a lot more mileage by stiff-arming Trump.
Yeah.
I think who Romney stands with says a lot about what he'll stand for. There it is. That's from a Republican.
Yeah.
Here's from another Republican. What voter's going to vote for him because he's seen with Donald Trump? The cost of appearing with his bloviating ignoramus is obvious, it seems to me. Trump is redundant evidence that if your net worth is high enough, your IQ can be very low, and you can still intrude into American politics. That's
I heard Donald Trump's a really smart guy. I heard that from Donald Trump himself. So who the hell are you to judge?
Oh, dear Lord.
It is amazing, isn't it?
I mean, why would Romney spend time with him and not have any... Did he have control of the fact that Trump spent the whole day resurrecting and beating the drum of Obama's not an American?
You don't have the control over the Donald. He does what he wants. I just don't understand Donald Trump as a phenomenon.
Mm-mm.
I
think because of Americans' love affair with... with celebrity and wealth.
But is it us?
Yeah, it's celebrity and wealth.
Did we do that? Because, I bet if you went to 100 Americans, and this is one of those things where I think maybe there's a chance for us to come together as a country. If you ask 100 Americans across the political spectrum, Donald Trump, an idiot or not, I feel like you'd get 80 to 85% of people saying idiot. Including many Republicans.
I think you're wrong.
I just can't imagine a guy who's got a toupee like that.
Well,
and who's run multiple businesses into the ground.
They're not going to say he's an idiot because all they know is he's got his own plane, he's got buildings, he's got this, he's got gorgeous wives by the dozen, he has his TV show they love to watch. I
don't know.
That is success.
I guess.
In America.
I don't know.
You're out of it, Potter.
I don't know.
It's like living in Upper St. Clair.
really class baiting me today, aren't you? I'm not going there. I'm about to.
I grew up upper.
I was about to say one of us.
I grew up upper middle class. I did.
Okay.
That's why I know the rich very well, because we were sometimes allowed into the palatial estates of the very wealthy, of the 1%. In my young life, I saw how they lived, and I know some of them. I know some of them, and some of them are very nice people.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, a few of them.
Oh, sure. Some of my best friends are wealthy.
Yeah, right.
They're not all like that.
Right. But oh my God. One of the richest men in the country was my dad's fraternity brother, who was, he was the owner of Hyatt Hotels and all this other, Pritzker.
Which fraternity? Do you remember? Because I was reading this story about this dude.
Phi Epsilon.
Oh, okay.
It's Jewish.
Oh, really? I didn't know they're Jewish fraternities. It's something new.
There are two that I know of, Phi Epsilon and Zeta something. AZ Alpha. Who the hell cares? That's nonsense.
No, I was just like...
Anyway, that Pritzker guy was extraordinarily wealthy. His father was already extraordinarily wealthy. My father was an orphan who went off to college as an orphan. His parents had died, and the Pritzker lived in Chicago. Pritzker lived in Chicago and he attended Northwestern University, and his family took my father a little bit under their wing, which is how then.
This is like a Horatio Alger story in a way.
Yes. And I know when I was putting a video together to surprise my father on, I think, his 75th birthday, or his 80th birthday it would have been, I flew to Chicago to interview for it Pritzker.
Right.
And I had been told he never does interviews, he will not, blah, 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 blah. I wrote him a letter. I told him I was, who I was, and I got
totally
right.
Milked
You
it.
cannot imagine the security to get into that building in Chicago and to get into him. And he was so personable and funny, but I think he was his niece is Obama's sort of fundraiser money person. You ever heard of Penny Pritzker?
No.
Oh, she's big money, and in the inner.
That's great. Her name is Penny, but she's big money.
Penny Pritzker. Penny Pritzker. Anyway, Pritzker had the funniest line about my father, who was always ill. Always, and he's suffering all the time. And he talked about how if you needed any medication for anything, everyone knew to go to his room. He said he had a pharmaceutical stack, the likes of which you can't imagine.
Yeah.
And this is in the early 40s.
Right.
So, and he came up with a great line, which is so perfect. Your father is the only person I think I've ever known who enjoys bad health. Yeah, but he outlived Pritzker.
Yeah.
I gotta take a break.
That's funny.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to burgbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the City Theater, Symphony, History Museum, and the Carnegie Museums. Check out this week's big deal featuring 50% off tickets to the Carnegie Science Center. Burgbargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. Burgbargains.com.
Are you struggling with your mortgage payments? Call 888-995-HOPE to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about your options. Or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right.
There we go.
Potter is looking for exactly where
there
Phillips
we
and
go.
Howard is in
yeah,
Upper St. Clair. Oh, yeah.
Right.
And where were you?
So he lived over here. He lived on the other side of Clare Park from I did. I lived right over here on Clare Drive itself.
Oh, yeah.
There we are. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, Howard was... Okay, yep, now I know where he's at. Geez, he was really from the rough part of town. Man, you didn't mess around on Bartley, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, Upper St. Clair, that's a tough neighborhood. That is so tough. Okay, so this is odd. I got this out of the Wall Street Journal. The Obama spending binge never happened. You know?
Yeah, right. Yes.
Okay, so the Repubs are, of course, saying he's spending money left over, right, he's blah, 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 we got to get him out and get control. Here are the facts. Mitt Romney said he was oversaw a spending inferno.
That was actually the hustle, not the Disco Inferno. I apologize.
Oh, right.
My access to yeah.
Right,
there we go.
Spending inferno. Okay, here we go. These are the facts as based on numbers from the Office of Management and Budget. Here are the facts. Herbert Hoover increased spending more than Obama has. Spending is at the federal level at the slowest pace since Dwight Eisenhower brought the Korean War to an end in the 50s.
Now that's being measured how? Obviously not in absolute dollars because...
Well, right.
Right.
I mean,
so it's measured as a percentage of GDP or measured just in inflation-adjusted dollars?
Well, you'll have to look at the fine print here, okay? I'm trusting
just saying.
this.
All right.
Okay. 2009 fiscal year, the last of Bush's presidency, federal spending rose by 17.9%.
Right.
Fiscal 2010, the first budget under President Obama, spending fell 1.8%.
Right.
And it's never risen. In 2011, it rose 4.3%. In 2012, rose by less than 1%. Over Obama's 4 budget years, federal spending is on track to have an annualized increase over his 4 years of just 0.4%.
Well, nevertheless, I'm outraged. You know, he's only spending that little that small amount of money to set himself up for a second term when he'll spend a whole lot of money. That's what you'll hear next. He's just lulling you into a false sense of security. And then in his second term, he'll take away your guns and spend it all on single payer.
But, you know, how silly of me to continue to attempt to
you and your
put
facts
in the...
You and your liberals with your numbers.
Facts are, what is the word for today?
Stupid things.
Fungible.
That's good. I like that.
I like that sound, too.
We're fully artists now here. Here's the sound of an angry electorate. Now here are two horses racing down the...
No.
Oh, very good. You need a couple of coconuts.
Isn't that pretty good?
No.
What?
That's great, Lynn.
Thank you.
That's a very good horsey sound.
What?
It hurts.
It hurts to laugh.
laugh.
Oh, yeah, she's got a pinched nerve.
Oh, does she really?
Yeah, go ahead, make her laugh.
No.
You sadist. Okay. So this, again, was something I learned in the New York Times, which has freaked me out. So one of the latest crime waves going on is that a lot of, former burglars are going into white-collar crime because it's so dang easy. And what they're doing is filing false income tax returns. They do it early, ahead of whatever identity they've stolen, ahead of, let's say they got your Social Security number. They'll file a false return.
And get a refund.
And they get a refund. Then when you file the return, your real return, the government says, "Wait a minute, you already filed," and then it takes you God knows how long to prove that It turns out, you look at the numbers, it's beyond belief how much the IRS has paid out.
Yeah.
2010, identity thieves received as much as $6.5 billion in refunds. But they figure they missed. There's probably another, easily almost that much, that they haven't identified as false returns.
Right.
So we're talking about maybe $12 billion going to people who didn't deserve it. And of course, you end up having to pay the real person their return at some point, too.
Right.
So the police, a lot of this is happening in Florida, where there's a lot of old people who, don't secure their identities well enough. So here's what some of the Broward County Sheriff's Office says. He was told by this guy, a former armed robber, "I'm not doing robberies anymore. This is much cleaner. I don't even have to use a gun." He's just making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
And the sheriff in Broward County says these guys are holding filing parties at which they haul out laptops and for a small fee actually teach others how to run the particular swindle.
Right.
Who knew?
Yeah, I'm just saying, if I'm Goldman Sachs, I know where I'm doing my hiring.
That's right.
The other thing, too,
that's absolutely.
The other thing, too, is when I read that story, which I did see, I thought, I cannot believe I've been worried about getting audited ever in my life. Like, I'm running around like, where's my Doctors Without Borders receipt? And it's like, apparently, really, like... And the government, and in recent years, it's been like the government, they're going after waitresses or whatever, to make sure that they're properly reporting their
exactly.
things. Really?
Right. Because it's easy to go after waitresses because they don't have lawyers and can't afford them and
right, but
whatever.
Presumably neither of these, it's pretty amazing. It is. But, in a way, it's like, I guess eventually they were going to figure out that you rob a bank, you do a nickel's worth. You own a bank and defraud people, and nothing really ever happens to you. So why? Right. So this is just like them. These guys are going where the money is, right?
I mean,
it's and where there's the least amount, the least punishment. So if people want to do something about these issues, maybe we ought to really have a serious conversation about white collar crime. But
how can you do that when the white collar criminals have taken over our government?
There you go.
Thank you. We're done. We are so done.
We are done.
As usual, Chris Potter, thank you so very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
talking to me and for eating all my grapes. You guys have a wonderful day. And Tom Sokolowski joins us tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.